Hello, my name is Michele, and you're listening to Profit is a Choice. Today, we're just going to put it on the table. Burnout, frustration, lack of inspiration, maybe you're in need of support. Do any of these words and phrases resonate with you at all? If so, hang around because we're going to talk about how to get out of that funk and how to look for inspiration in your creative business. Every day, empowered entrepreneurs are taking ownership of their company financial health and enjoying the rewards of reduced stress and more creativity. With my background as a financial software developer, owner of multiple businesses in the interior design industry, educator, and speaker, I coach women in the interior design industry to increase their profits, regain ownership of their bottom line, and to have fun again in their business. Welcome to Profit is a Choice. The world and the business today are not the world and the business that many of us started with. Certainly not what we had just a few short years ago. Between long lead times, back orders, slow boats from everywhere, and a lack of raw materials, our choices really feel more limited than ever. Even in my area, I am in the Atlanta, Georgia area. Companies that made it through 2020 and 2021 are now closing in 2022. They're having difficulties not only finding employees, but finding people that actively want to come to work. Not only that, finding available stock for items to order is a challenge. Scams persist for those taking advantage of the times. It's easy to feel boxed in and running short on inspiration, fun, and excitement in the workplace, as well as in our designs. I'm hearing some of you mention that design is losing its luster, and rightly so, because they feel like they're having to use the same materials over and over because that's all that's available. The days of being kind of wild and free in design to order anything from anywhere really is not what we're seeing right now. It's over, at least for this moment. We certainly do hope it will come back. So how do we keep our excitement level high and our inspiration flowing when we feel like our hands might be tied in more than one way? You know, at the risk of sounding cliche, I'm just going to say it and go back. My first rule of thumb is to reconnect with your why and your company why. And this connection, really going deep with it, allows you to keep everything in perspective. Yes, as a design professional or a creative, we need to be inspired, but we also need to be inspiring. We all go through times of feeling like we're working in and with the mundane. I know I've been in business 22 years, and I can tell you there are times where I feel like I'm just chugging along. Often joy and inspiration, though, can come in the smallest and in the quietest of moments. And inspiration doesn't have to be this big event or the big new reveal of a product that's out there. My grandmother used to always say, necessity is the mother of invention. Plato, I went and researched, was the one that came up with that back in ancient Greek times. And it's still true today. For sure, it could be easier to do a lot when we have a lot. But look at the skill that is honed and really crafted when we are asked to do a lot with limited resources. My grandparents were born right before the Great Depression, and I watched them as I grew up make do with very little. But I also watched them live with joy because they found joy and inspiration in other things. Now, this might sound weird and difficult when our businesses depend on others spending their money on luxury items and us having a broad world to purchase from. Currently, we're experiencing a narrowing of our options, from the grocery store and toilet paper to items for our home. So if we are only inspired by more, new, we're going to struggle during really lean times. What if, now hear me out, what if we could be inspired by a single flower? What if we can be inspired to use a prior item that we've used before in a different way? What if we tried a new color palette? What if we found a way to do more with less? What if we were inspired by spending time with our families? or inspired by eating at home and sharing the table with friends instead of going out for all types of meals? What if we were inspired by simplicity instead of the overabundance of an item? None of this is wrong. Maximalist, minimalist, middle of the line, it's all okay. But what matters is our attitude and our thinking. Studies show that what we spend time telling ourselves is what we believe. So if we consistently repeat to ourselves that nothing new is on the market or everything is old and uninspiring, we're certainly going to look at the world through those lenses. That's how we're going to see it. If we believe that inspiration can be found anywhere, and we truly believe that, our eyes and our hearts will be open to seeing it. And those small glimpses will give us a shock of beauty where we might least expect it. Years ago, when my youngest was about 2 years old, so really like 25 years ago, we were out working in our front yard. And my husband, he loves yard work. Bless him, he loves it. And we had planted some really beautiful purple flowers, my favorite, out in the front bed. And as my 2-year-old and we drove up, and he got out of the car one afternoon, and I looked over at those flowers, and it was probably June timeframe. And I looked over at the flowers, and all I saw were weeds that had invaded the bed. Like when I looked at it, my mind was already trying to work out a plan for when can I get outside? When am I going to have time to clean up that flower bed? And I was frustrated and thinking about all that hard work we had done and all these invasive weeds that had taken it over. And so the more I was thinking about it, this is all in a split second, right? As I'm like getting myself out of the car with the 2-year-old and just getting angrier and angrier and more frustrated. And my 2-year-old went running for the flowers as I was grabbing our bags out of the car. And he started yelling, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, come, 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 see the pretty butterfly." And in that moment, I caught myself. I was just looking at all of the bad. I was looking at the weeds. I was looking at the work. I was looking at the effort. I was looking at everything it took me. And yes, all those things were true and all those things were there. It actually almost still brings me to tears to think about it. But in the middle of all of my frustration, I missed the beauty that was before me, the beauty of a purple flower and a visiting butterfly. And as I looked over the entire bed, I looked down the whole front area. There were butterflies all over it. And I've never forgotten, like I said, 25 years ago, and I've never forgotten that lesson from my young son. We see what we choose to see. And so I'm not saying that the weeds weren't there, but they didn't have to be the first thing that I saw. I was going to have to deal with them, but I didn't need to lose the beauty of the butterfly. And we still talk about it in my family. When everything goes bad, we're like, where are the butterflies? Where's the butterflies? My husband has spent many hours and lots of money on our current yard, different house, sod, landscaping, hardscaping, weed control, all the things. Like he wants to cut his grass in a certain way. And, he just really likes to take care of the yard. And last week, as we were going into our house from the driveway, I noticed a tiny purple flower that was protruding from a super small crack in the concrete and brick. It was like where the house comes together with the driveway. And there's this one little tiny, I wouldn't even call it a hole. I would just call it the gap between where these two things come together. There is no grass and no ground for 5 feet in either direction. And one direction is the house. The other direction is the driveway to the left and to the right. About 5 feet out is ground. And yet this tiny, small purple flower fought its way up through the crack. My husband, of course, reached down to pull it up because to him it was a weed. And I asked him to stop. I said, that little flower fought so hard to get to the sun and then to bloom. And it's my favorite color, purple. I said, let's just let it live. Like it worked really hard to get there and we need to give it a chance. I mean, it's going to die out because there's not a lot of grass or anything around it. But now I look for it when I go into the house and I see it. It's this tiny little reminder to me that beauty can show up in the tiniest of places. Where are the tiny flowers and the butterflies metaphorically hanging out in the challenges we're currently facing? Where can we find inspiration instead of frustration? Where can we connect with inspiring others instead of always needing to be inspired ourselves? What might the balance between all of this look like? Inspiration is all around us. It's in a baby's smile or a giggle, a sunrise, a sunset, flowers blooming, Rocks forming, water running. It's in a child's art project. It's in your best friends chatting on a back porch. It's in a soccer game. It's in a movie. We just need to be open to looking for it and not expecting it to always show up like it maybe has in the past. We'll always find what we're looking for. So are we looking to be inspired, or are we looking at all the ways we currently aren't? The choice and the mindset is ours. Supporting business owners in the creative space is what inspires me. I love sharing new thoughts and ideas, as well as strategizing to solve challenges. If you could use some business inspiration and you want to best see how to use the resources you have, check out the Work With Me page at scarletthreadconsulting.com. Apply for a discovery call and let's talk. The more you love what you do, the more profitable you will be. And profit doesn't happen by accident. Profit is a Choice is proud to be part of the designnetwork.org, where you can discover more design media reaching creative listeners. Thanks for listening, and stay creative and business minded.